Good afternoon, everybody. Guten Erev Shabbos. What a glorious day out. Today is a sad day. Today, we heard and we learned of the passing of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, the husband of the Queen Elizabeth for 74 years. A great lover of the Jewish people. And there's much to say about him. Of course, who could forget his mother, Princess Alice, who was awarded the very special award by Yad Vashem of hero amongst the Gentiles for her heroic efforts back in Greece when she saved the Cohen family and she hid them upstairs in her attic, in a room upstairs, and she protected them and saved them for over a year and a half while the Nazis occupied Greece. Greece had over 90,000 Jews, or about 90,000 Jews before the Holocaust, and almost all perished. And Princess Alice took the heroic efforts that were at risk to save this family. And in fact, Prince Philip had 3 sisters. All 3 of them married Germans, and at least two of them became Nazis. And when one of them came to visit the mother, Princess Alice, they quizzed her about who was living upstairs. And you all know she was pretty deaf, and she read lips well, but she was deaf. And she made believe she didn't understand what they were saying, and said, "Oh, there's just a nanny living upstairs." And later on, Prince Philip had no tolerance for Nazis or collaborators. In fact, he was the one who outed his wife's uncle, Prince Edward, who after abdicating from the throne, aligned with the Nazis in a terrible way. And he was a very proud friend of the Jewish people. He was engaged in many Jewish causes throughout his years. And then, of course, he was the one who broke the de facto ban that the royal family had of not visiting Israel. And they never visited Israel till his visit in 2004, when he went to visit the grave of his mom, who is buried on Har HaZeitim, Mount Olives, right across of the eastern wall of Jerusalem. And then he accepted on behalf of his mom the special honor from Yad Vashem. And I think he wrote that when he came into Yad Vashem, he wrote something about all of us are brought to justice, so have to answer to God. In any case, I was thinking about it. He passed away today, and he was married to Queen Elizabeth for 74 years, 5 years preceding her ascent to the crown. And in fact, I know today, in the last few years, with Netflix having the series The Crown, everyone is more enamored and engaged in all of this. But in the beginning of Prince Philip's married life, he was madly in love with this woman, Queen Elizabeth, who he never dreamt would become the queen for many, many years to come. Her father was young, and then he passed away from cancer suddenly at 57, and they were thrust into this position of the crown, which they really didn't want. And he always, throughout, his wife reminded him that the crown always comes first. And he stood at the side. In the beginning, it wasn't easy for him, because that's not the life he chose. But recognizing the responsibility, he stood at the side of the Queen for so many years and stood up for his country, for justice, for charitable causes, and of course was the first one to visit Israel. Later on, although he went in a non-official capacity, his grandson Prince William went as an official capacity, I think in 2018, and then in 2016 maybe, and 2018 Prince Charles went. But in any case, I was thinking a lot about it, because in this week's Torah portion, we read about the laws of kosher, of kashrut. And the Torah tells us what we can eat and what we can't eat. Things that are allowed to be eaten and things that the Torah tells us not to eat. You know, they say this old story about this rabbi who was at a civic dinner, in the community dinner, and he was sitting they put him right next to the priest, and they served dinner, and they're serving, you know, pork and ham and whatever else you might ask on the plate, and the rabbi says, no thanks, I won't take it. And the priest looks at the rabbi and he says, Rabbi, come on, you know, get with the program. It's 2021. Start eating like everyone else. When are you going to get over this old-fashioned thing of not eating non-kosher and just enjoy what we're all eating? And without the rabbi hesitating for a moment, he looks at the priest and he quips, he says, at your wedding, that's when I'll start doing it. And the point is, so many people always tell me, Rabbi, you know, these laws of kosher are so complicated. And the truth is not just kosher, but many of the rules of the Torah are restrictive in a sense and are obligatory and make our life not harder, but more focused and more committed, but it comes with restrictions. And people say, Rabbi, what do we need it for? We live in a free world. It's 2021. It's America. Life is good. Why can't I just go to any restaurant? Why can't I just eat whatever I want and do whatever I want? But the truth is that when God took the Jews out of Egypt and gave them the Torah, he said, that you are going to be a nation of kings to me. And people always say, Rabbi, you know, being the chosen nation, it's really, you know, it's not so PC, and it excludes others. But the truth is, being the chosen nation is not a privilege as much as it is a responsibility. Just like when you're the king or queen of England, there comes a tremendous responsibility. And you live your life every day thinking of how are you representing the crown? What are you doing to make sure that the crown is at its best, is representing the people that it represents, and is making the country proud? And the same is true for us Jewish people. Yeah, it would be easier if we could eat whatever we want. It would be easier if we could go wherever we want and do whatever we want on the days we want. But the idea of God, you know, when God gave the Jews the Torah, the laws of kosher, in this week's Torah portion, at the end, he says, you shall be holy, ki kadosh ani, because I am holy. God says, you know what, kosher is being different. And yes, the Jewish people are different. We have a responsibility. We have to be a shining light upon the nations of morality, of ethics, of kindness, of caring. And I thought about it today as we celebrate this life of someone who didn't necessarily choose it. He wasn't born into it, but he married into it before he knew what it would be. So it was almost like if he was born into it. Although he was born into it from his mom, Princess Alice, who was the great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria, and yet he lived a life of nobility, a life of royalty in the sense of responsibility. And that's what we should think about as Jews. We're going into Shabbos now. This Shabbos we're blessing the new month of Iyar. Iyar is the acronym Ani Hashem Reifecha, I am God, your healer. It's also the acronym of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel, which are the patriarchs and the matriarchs. And it reminds us of where we come from and who we represent and how we represent them. So have a great Shabbos. For those of you who want to join us tomorrow in our beautiful tent outdoors, it's going to be 75 degrees. We have a kiddush ready and cholent and all delicacies in a safe manner. We'll wear masks even outdoors during shul, but then we'll spread apart and have l'chaims. So join us. We'd love to see you. Have a Shabbat Shalom, and may the memory of Prince Philip's, the Duke of Edinburgh, be a blessing for us. His kindness to Israel, his love for the Jewish people, and his dignity as a human being. Shabbat Shalom. God bless you, and see you all next week.